Chapter 3, Mishnah 7. The Mishnah continues with the laws of Kilayim as they relate to gourds. A Greek gourd planted next to a vegetable field is like any other kind of vegetable planted next to a field of different vegetables. The two must be separated by a gap of 6 tefachim. And if we wish to plant it next to a grain field, we must give it a base rova of separation, the same as any other vegetable planted next to a grain field. The Mishnah teaches that a row of gourds planted in a grain field is treated more leniently. If his field was planted with grain, and he wished to plant a row of Greek gourds in it, we give it 6 tefachim for its work area to serve as a separation, i.e. a gap of 6 tefachim must be left between the row of gourds and the grain. Although a single gourd must be separated from a field of grain by a base rova, a row of gourds needs to be separated by only 6 tefachim. This is because a row looks more like a place in its own right, and therefore more separate from the field around it. If the row of gourds afterwards grew large and its leaves spread into the 6 tefach gap, he must uproot the grain in front of it to maintain the 6 tefach gap. A different opinion about a row of gourds in a field of grain. Rabbi Yossi says, we must give it 4 amos for its work area to serve as a separation, i.e. a gap of 4 amos must be left between the row of gourds and the grain. The sages challenged Rabbi Yossi's view. They said to him, will you treat this case of gourds in a field of grain more strictly than we treat a row of grapevines? The law of Kilayim is stricter for grapevines than for anything else. Yet, the law is that a single row of grapevines does not have to be separated from other species by more than 6 tefachim. How then could you require a 4 amma separation for a single row of gourds? Rabbi Yossi responds, he said to them, we find that the law for gourd is stricter in some ways than the law for the grapevine. How so? Because for a single grapevine, we give just the 6 tefachim of its work area to serve as a separation from a field of grain. Whereas for a single gourd, we require a base rova, as we learned at the beginning of the Mishnah. Both Rabbi Yossi and the sages agree that the separation of a base rova is enough for a single gourd planted next to a field of grain. The Mishnah now cites another Tana who disagrees. Rabbi Meir says in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, whenever there are 3 gourds in a base sa'ah, i.e. an area of 50 by 50 amos, one may not bring other seeds into the base sa'ah. According to Rabbi Meir, we must leave an empty space of 1/3 of a base sa'ah around a gourd before being able to plant another species. Thus, if there are 3 gourds spread out in a base sa'ah, no other species may be planted in it. Another version of Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. Rabbi Yossi ben Efrasi said in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, whenever there are 3 gourds in a base core, 30 base sa'ahs, one may not bring other seeds into the base core.